And welcome into the Cards Central Postgame Show. I'm Sara, Dayley, alongside Ethan Hannaford. The Birds in the series opener against the Braves fall short 6-5. The last series before the All-Star break. A little time to heal, recoup in a couple of days. But tonight, not exactly the direction we wanted to go. Went to the bullpen early, and it ended up being really an offensive first 3 innings from both squads, but the bullpen really held it out, and it ended up being a duel of the pins when it came down to the end of the game. But once again, 6-5, Cardinals fall short, Ethan.
Yeah, there's a lot of takeaways from tonight's game. If you're going to start with the positive, right, I mean, it would be that the bullpen looked really good tonight. Extremely impressive stuff. The way that this one was going earlier, you're thinking, oh boy, this is not the way you want to start this series. And regardless, it wasn't, right? Anytime that you have the amount of struggles from your starting pitching that the Cardinals have been, when you can't get a solid performance from a guy in Matthew Liberatore that you kind of right now really need to lean on, because it feels like you can trust 3 of the 5 guys that are going out there right now. It's tough when Matthew Liberatore isn't able to perform. Is that a fair expectation for him in his first full year of starting at the major league level? Not at all, but it's just kind of where the Cardinals are right now, unfortunately, because of where the rest of their rotation is. So Matthew Liberatore is not able to have the outing that you'd like from him, but you do get some really solid work out of your rotation. Riley O'Brien goes 2 innings. The first inning, nice and clean. The second, he ran into a little bit of issues, but was able to work out of a jam in an impressive manner. Matt Swanson was extremely impressive tonight. Romero was good, and Phil Maton finishing up the top of the 9th inning. So a lot of good stuff from your bullpen tonight. But overall, frustrating loss. This is one, you look at the record that the Braves have coming in, and obviously the Cardinals taking 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. But there was a lot of that series that still didn't feel like it was high quality baseball. I know that yesterday's game was a beatdown, but overall, you're still not super convinced as to the style that the Cardinals, not the style, the quality of the baseball, in my opinion, that the Cardinals are playing right now. And you would have liked to have gotten this one tonight and set you up well. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do that, and now you got some work to do the next couple of games to try and finish out this first half on a positive note.
Of course, we love everyone joining in on the content tonight and the comments. Nick Jensen, I seriously can't take any anymore with the starting pitching. It seems the new expectation is to give up 6 to 7 earned runs within 5 innings, not sustainable for winning. Well, yes, you do have a point, but that is not the expectation. I can promise you that. The Cardinals organization doesn't hold it as an expectation. Fans don't hold it as an expectation, right? So everyone's looking for answers here, and looking for a different outcome today. I mean, it wasn't what everyone expected out of Libby tonight. And then Riley O'Brien, of course, came in solid, but then a little bit of ab tightness, which I'm sure we'll find out more about that later on. But, it's an unfortunate situation. The Cards just never gave up, right? They kept battling back. 156 pitches between the 2 starters in the first, 2 frames, I think it was. That's an insane amount of pitches. They had over 15 hits or 12 hits in the first 2 innings. So a lot of action tonight. You got to take that for what it's worth. But again, you want to walk away with a win.
Just addressing Nick's comment here. That's just not true. I know that the last road trip was really ugly, and you saw some really bad pitching in Chicago. But I mean, overall, it's not true. You could argue that there has been a little bit more leeway than you would prefer for, Eric Fetty, Miles Michaelis. But it's just not real. The Cardinals are going in a very specific direction. You could agree or disagree with with them sticking with those 2, but I don't know if I would say that it's I don't think that, like you said, Sara, the expectation, right, is giving up 6 to 7 earned runs. In large part, the starting pitching has been really good this year. They're going through a bad stretch, and while you could argue it does seem like there is a solution in McGreevy for one of these guys, it seems like they want to give Eric Fetty at least these last couple of starts before the trade deadline. I don't know, to try and up his value. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that at this point. I can understand, I guess, the mindset. It's frustrating, right? What we've seen from the starting pitching. Has it been good? No. Nick commenting and saying, I'm unaware. I'm not saying that it's been good, right? I'm just saying
not the expectation. We're not like settling for this. It's not okay.
It's they're going through a rough stretch. In large part, the Cardinals starting pitching has been pretty solid this year. This was the biggest question mark of the year going in, was could the starting pitching hold their own? We're getting really close to the trade deadline. The Cardinals may mix things up. I would be really surprised if Michael McGreevy is not in this rotation full-time post-trade deadline. I said that I'd be surprised if Michael McGreevy wasn't starting on Saturday. I was wrong about that, and I am a little bit disappointed. I would have liked to see him in that spot. It seems like Ollie Marmol would have liked to as well. It seems like this is a decision that is coming from above him, so I understand the frustration. I get the frustration after a loss like tonight. But there's only so much you can say as far as the starting pitching goes right now. Like I said, Matthew Liberatore doesn't give you what you were hoping you could give him. It's been a little bit of a bumpy ride, but you know what? Do you want that from Liberatore? No, but are you? This is a guy that you imagine is going to be around for a long time. That's the hope, at least, that he's going to be an impact middle of the rotation, perhaps a 2 for years to come, right? So you're willing to give him that time to figure it out. Let's hope that he does. In large part, we've seen a lot more good from him than bad, in my opinion. It hasn't been as smooth sailing since here the last 6 weeks as it was in the month of May. But I think in large part, like I said, we've seen more good than bad from Matthew Liberatore. So let's hope that he's able to respond post All-Star break. Like I said, definitely not what you want regardless. A frustrating loss overall for sure.
So Bad Mike, an open comment here. What does Mo have against McGreevy? Clearly that's a question that I think a lot of people just wanting to know why there is that rift there. What's the scuttlebutt that's preventing us from the move?
It's not a riff. It's definitely not a riff. In fact, John Mozeliak in his most recent comments has said, Michael McGreevy, not exactly this, but along the lines of he's making it difficult. He has pitched really well when he's been up here, and he's thrown extremely well in AAA all season long. John Mozeliak feels that the Cardinals don't have enough depth in the minors right now. They don't feel comfortable, moving on from someone else, bringing McGreevy up to the major league club. And then if someone is to get injured at that point, then you're in big trouble because who's going to start for you at that point? I understand that thought. I understand that mindset. But at some point, right, you're going to have to move on and you're going to have to play with the risk. They have not elected to go to that at this point. So, you can agree, you can disagree with that. I think that I would prefer at this point to be seeing Michael McGreevy. I was probably one of the more conservative people as far as this conversation goes, saying that I was very okay up until Fedde and Michaelis really started struggling. I was okay with McGreevy still being in the minors because your major league rotation in large part was holding their own. The last 3 to 4 starts from Eric Fedde have been really rough. Here's to hoping that tomorrow he's able to build some positive momentum before the All-Star break. But from everything that I'm seeing, it looks like he's going to I wouldn't surprise me, right, if he starts up until the deadline to see if they can create any sort of value for him at this point. So I don't think it's necessarily Mo having anything against McGreevy. I do believe that John Mozeliak believes that he is setting things up in the best way possible. And some people just disagree with that. Michael McGreevy is at some point going to be a part of this major league rotation. It's still just not yet, unfortunately.
So Peppermint Patty has been weighing in quite a bit. I'm not going to quote her exactly, but pretty solid pitching. We have looked at the win-losses for these guys. By the way, that's the only thing that matters. You can take all that analytical BS and throw it out the window. Well, I mean, win-losses do count, but you're also looking at everything else that's going to happen after the season and the second half of the season and long-term. I mean, baseball is not just like a one game at a time approach when it comes to money. I mean, there's just a whole other realm of that. So I'll kind of take that comment for what it is. But then we have a couple other comments here weighing in on everything. Justin Hutchins, McGreevy should made opening day roster. He has real good numbers in the spring. Like you said, you just kind of defended the case with what Mo's decision was as far as the roster depth. So we just kind of heard your opinion on that portion of it. But At some point, I can see the other side of it, playing devil's advocate, that like depth for what? I mean, you have these guys in the minors for a reason, right? Bring them up, use them, get what you can out of them, and see what they're going to do. So you're going to see both sides of it. I don't think waiting on McGreevy is really going to be the answer to everything, but that's just being on the other side of it. Like if you've got the talent, they're there for a reason, right? The organization's been known for a very long time for their farm system and what they've put in. So why not use the talent they've developed with what they have left?
Going back to Peppermint Patty's comment, the win-loss for this team as of this point, Katie Wu put out a tweet today that before today's loss, the Cardinals had the same win-loss record at this point, up to this point in the season, that they did in 2022. Right now, obviously, they went on a really good run in the second half of 2022. I'm not saying the Cardinals are necessarily going to do that. We have seen this team play streaky baseball where they look really good for a couple of weeks, and then they've had some stretches where they look pretty bad for a week or two. So I'm not saying the Cardinals can't go on a run in the second half. They've definitely shown the ability to do so. But the Cardinals, as far as exceeding expectations from a win-loss record standpoint, as far as what a lot of the numbers had, I believe even DraftKings had them as one of the biggest exceeder of expectations up to this point from a win-loss record point. The Cardinals are exceeding expectations in every single expectation that was set for them at the beginning of the year. This team was not expected by a lot of national media to be good or to do anything special this year. So I get there has been a lot of frustration. There has, and I'm frustrated. I leave the ball. I was at the ball game tonight. I left frustrated with the Cardinals. You're not setting yourself up well in this series as much as anyone else was. But I can also recognize and say, okay, the expectation going in, I never had the expectation that this was supposed to be a playoff team. The whole thing was always setting yourself up for 2026 and beyond. And I still feel like the Cardinals are doing that, are actively doing that pretty well, specifically with their offense. There's still a lot of pieces that you feel pretty good moving forward with, and not to mention that you're going to have a new front office management and Heimblum taking over in the offseason. Who knows what he's gonna what the plan will be as far as how he is going to set up this team for success in the future. So I understand there's frustrations, but if you want to break it down solely by the win-losses, they are still at this point exceeding expectations. So and they've been not up as much as 9 games over 500 at some points this season. I'm not excusing the poor play at times, right? There have been some poor play as of late, but it's kind of what you expected with such a young team this season.
And I'm not sure if anything has come out yet from the post-game interviews and things out of the locker room, but Contreras tonight, showing that, I guess, maybe upper pectoral issue or shoulder overstrain when he swung. Clearly, maybe some concern there a little bit, but his flexibility, his movement when he swings, that range control, that he opened that shoulder up and there was some tightness there, and they came out and looked at it, and he said he was fine. But, showing as much as he was in his face and grimacing, that's usually something to maybe think about. But then again, he's got the All-Star break, so he's got some time off. So we'll see what leads into that. Also, Murphy going deep twice tonight. 2 of the furthest hit home runs at Busch Stadium this season. I believe the first one is around 440. The second one maybe 435 plus, because I think Burleson's was 435 for the furthest Cardinal home run hit this year. So Murphy just teeing off on Libby and getting that early lead, 3-0. The Cardinals just really couldn't catch up. So a couple of things there early.
Yeah, just to dive back in and focus on the game here for a second. I mean, that first home run from Sean Murphy, boy, was that an impressive at bat. 14 pitches, right. and he waits and he gets his pitch. We've talked about Matthew Liberatore not being sharp tonight. Obviously, you want him to execute a little bit better in that situation, but at some point you tip your cap and you say, like, man, you got the best of me. You fouled off 7 pitches. I mean, Liberatore did throw some good pitches in that at bat. Unfortunately, tonight overall, he just left way too much over the plate, and he just wasn't able to locate accurately, unfortunately. So yeah, Sean Murphy gets the best of him tonight. And unfortunately, in a game like this, right, where it ends up being a 1-run difference, that's all the difference that you needed. So you appreciated the Cardinals offense punching back in the first and the third inning, but anytime you get 10 hits and 5 runs, you expect to win a ball game. Unfortunately, though, you had 6 innings to make up a 1-run deficit, and you weren't able to do so tonight. You had multiple opportunities. Early in the game, they had the bases loaded in the second, and they weren't able to score. They had runners on first and second and nobody out in the seventh. They weren't able to score. So the Cardinals had their opportunities tonight. They just they weren't able to execute, unfortunately. It's one of those things, right, where you say, well, they scored 5 runs. When you score 5 runs, like, that should be enough. But unfortunately, simultaneously, like, they weren't able to execute at multiple cases in this game with runners in scoring position. So it's a little bit of like, yeah, you're frustrated, but also, they did their job to a certain extent as well.
100%. Austin making a comment here. He said, this still isn't the worst Cardinals rotation I've seen in my lifetime. Silver linings. Kind of a cry smiley face. Yeah, to a point, yes. There's a couple of folks that have commented. So true. Yumi Himanager agreeing with that comment. And, like you mentioned just a little bit ago, it's the rebuilding year, which I know, like you said, it's not an excuse, but they are looking to the future. And that's what we were discussing. It's not just a in the moment situation where everything's just going to be drastically changed because you're not winning more games than you want this exact moment. It's a long-term deal. That's why Mo has made decisions that he has. That's why we're looking to the front office future here shortly. So a lot of comments here weighing in on what's going on with the Cardinals and where they're at heading into the All-Star break. Peppermint Patty or Justin Hutchins, once again, he's asking you, Ethan, will Walker and Herrera be active after the All-Star break? He wants a comment or some discussion on that.
Yeah, good question. First, I'll start with Jordan Walker. Right now, Jordan Walker, as far as the appendicitis goes, he is all good to go right now. What they're doing with Walker is they are basically, he is in Springfield right now, and he is just working on getting his timing down. As we know, this is a time right now the Cardinals offense has been struggling. If you're going to be in the lineup, you need to be able to perform. And Jordan Walker hasn't been able to consistently perform at the major league level this year for the most part. So right now he is healthy. It is still technically considered rehab assignment. They are just taking the chance, taking the opportunity for him before he comes back up to the major league level to make sure that he is seeing the ball well. So at some point he will be recalled after the All-Star break. Not sure, when specifically that will be, but at some point he will be called back up. As far as Ivan Herrera goes, he is on he started a rehab assignment, I believe, either tonight or last night in Memphis. There isn't a timetable yet on how long that he will need. It's kind of frustrating, right? Because the minor leagues also have the All-Star break, so they'll also have a few days off. So Herrera won't be able to rehab as far as getting at bats, getting plate appearances during that time. It's not like he's going to be able to make up that time and be good to go for sure following the start of the second half. So he could potentially be up. There is not a definitive answer as to if he will be up to start off the second half of play. But I imagine with him getting a few games of at-bats before the All-Star break and then perhaps a game or two after, it won't be long before we're seeing Ivan Herrera back up with the St. Louis Cardinals near the start of the second half. So I imagine both are near return, and you need the right-handed punch in your lineup, especially from Ivan Herrera right now, who has, we all know how good he has been when he has been up with the major league club, and the Cardinals have struggled mightily against lefties. So hopefully they're able to get him back as soon as possible, and that, you can start to play, you get back to the style of baseball offensively that you've seen at times this season.
Yeah, so it looks like he went 3 for 4 tonight. Apparently Chewy said that he did play tonight and went 3 for 4. So I'm trying to look it up right now, but it looks like he did get that action underway, so that's good news.
Another thing I'll throw in there about Ivan Herrera, there's been that it was made known by Oliver Marmol that he will not be focusing on catching anymore this year. We don't know what that'll look like necessarily in the future, but we know that he will not be catching anymore this year. I imagine you already have 2 catchers that are holding their own defensively. That has been an issue for him. behind the plate, not necessarily the strong point of his game. And then also you've got a guy that is so important to your lineup that has had now 2 extended stints on the injured list. You need him in your lineup. So I think this is the Cardinals saying like, hey, we'd rather him be solely the designated hitter and be able to keep him healthy. That's better than, using him in both and him catching maybe once, twice a week and running the risk of him having to have another stint on the IL. So he also has been shagging some fly balls in the outfield, something to keep an eye on. I don't know if we see much. If we see Ivan Herrera in,
you're going to start a whole other conversation with that,
right? But something to at least keep an eye on. It sounds like they're going to continue to he's going to continue to take fly balls this year once he's with the big league club as well. But it's still a little bit early there. But Ivan Herrera at least getting a little bit of outfield work and something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. So once again, if you are just joining us, it's a little later because the Cards game did go a little longer tonight. A lot of action offensively on both sides of the plate, but the Birds do drop one to the Braves in the series opener by a final score of 6-5. It took an early lead, 3-0 in the first, and really never turned back at that point. It was a battle back and forth. But we do head into the All-Star break after this series with the Braves in Atlanta. And of course, that means that baseball season is officially halfway through, and it's time to step up with DraftKings. That means that your pick 6 is your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just select 2 or more players. Choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. Pick 6 is available in most states. You can cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in pick 6 credit instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5. Get $50 in pick 6 credits.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
So once again, 6-5. We have 2 more games left before the break tomorrow and on Sunday. Is this going to be a situation where the Cardinals are heading into a break where they have their heads held high? Are they going in with their chins tucked and thinking about what they have to do to really reshuffle a couple things? Because I think there's pros and cons to both. I think they do have a lot of things going for them, but at the same time, I do think there's some things they have to think about, and that trade deadline excluded. I think if you kind of take away the Fetty situation or whatever they're going to use as trade bait, you don't have too many options. So not much is really going to change when it comes to that. You're not making major moves when it comes to the Cardinals.
It's a good question, right? I mean, they got Eric Fetty on the mound tomorrow. So I would say that, based off of his last several outings, their backs are against the wall in this series. You do have Sonny Gray going for you on Sunday. So, you anytime that Sonny is on the bump, you feel good about your chances to win, especially with how he has pitched at Busch Stadium this year. But you would obviously like to finish out the first half of play on a high note. Do I think that you never like to finish out an extended period of games, right, with a sour taste in your mouth? At the same time, do I think if the Cardinals lose this series, they're going to heads are going to be down the entire All-Star break? No. Ollie Marmol has bragged about this team's ability to just, flush away bad performances, and when they're playing really well, just stay even keel, which you said is really impressive for such a young team. So I expect, obviously, like I said, you hate to go into a 4-game stretch, right, not finishing it the way that you want, especially when games feel more important than ever right now. We have talked all season long about the magnifying glass being on this team at some point, right? That point was going to get, we are going to get to that point eventually, right? Where when you get closer to the trade deadline and the Cardinals kind of being in that, well, they could buy, they could also sell, they could do a little bit of both. Now's the time when the magnifying glass is on, and it's only going to get more and more, intense and hot as you get closer to that trade deadline. So from a player's perspective, I think you just continue to play the game. I think it's everyone around the play that really puts the magnifying glass on. I have to imagine that the players in that clubhouse right now are just focusing on, they just want to play good baseball and they want to get back to the style that they know that they're able to do. I imagine that they're, as of now at least, I bet there's probably not a lot of concern or nerves about who's going to get sent out. In a year like this, it's interesting. You're in a transition year, so that throws everything into oblivion as to what you're really willing to do. In a normal year, you're probably looking at this club and you're saying there's a lot of surplus. There's some guys that could be potentially being shopped. I don't know if that's necessarily the case this year. Could the Cardinals add starting pitching? Yeah, they definitely could, but I don't think there's a bunch of guys that are probably really worried about getting shipped off at the deadline, excluding maybe some of the obvious ones like Eric Fetty. But outside of that, I don't
That's
think
what I mean. Your pool's so small. There's not going to be too many options.
there's really not a lot of guys that at this point, I think the Cardinals are, you're saying, oh, that's trade bait. So as far as like, does the deadline affect these guys? I don't think so. I think they're really just focused on playing good baseball and trying to keep themselves in the mix to eventually make the postseason.
All right. Well, once again, tomorrow, Eric Fetty, first pitch. It's an afternoon matchup at Busch, is at 1:15. The Birds now 50-45 on the season. Atlanta 41-52. The Cardinals, they until tonight were about 10 games over 500 at Busch Stadium, so they were doing pretty well in front of their home crowd. What was the atmosphere like, just out of curiosity, since you were actually there? What was the feeling of Busch? Because usually at this time of year, it starts to pick up a bit. The uptick is maybe there a little bit, but I wasn't quite certain based on some of the broadcast perspectives, I guess. Well, is a good
the crowds, they've been down. It's no secret. I think there was around 29,000 there tonight, so, or at least tickets sold. So it's not a secret right now that the Cardinals have the sales have been down. They projected for the sales to be down going into the season. That was kind of the expectation, just based off of where the club's been the last couple of years, what the expectation was going into this season. I thought the crowd was fine. The offense gave them some things to cheer for early in the ball game. And there were some exciting moments. Victor Scott showed off the cannon early in the game, that double play, the outfield assist. That was pretty great. And then, like I said, the offense kept them in the there. Unfortunately, you just weren't able to finish tonight. Both bullpens were really good. Kudos to them. I really like what I saw from the Cardinals bullpen tonight. Hopefully they're able to build some momentum off of that. I think people should be excited about the depth that the Cardinals have in that area right now. There's a lot of question marks about this team in the future. I know it's people want to focus on the frustrations right now, and I think that where you're seeing some of the knowledge and understanding from Cardinals fans coming here is, I think that there is some frustration about where the team is right now, but I don't think there'd be nearly as much frustration if, instead of Eric Fetty having the struggles or Miles Michaelis, if it was Michael McGreevy having the struggles, right? Because you're just able to see it so much clearer. Now, there's still been frustrations about the offense, but I think that the majority of the frustration has come from some of those older guys still being around. I get that. I would much rather see Michael McGreevy being able to work through stuff at this point in the season too. But unfortunately, that's not the case right now. So plenty of frustration. I get it, fans. But got to take it a game at a time. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to laugh at myself for saying it, right? Momentum is only as good as the next day's starting pitcher. Well, Eric Fetty hasn't been very good as of late. So here's to hoping that Eric Fetty can do what Miles Michaelis did in his most recent outing, where he had struggled significantly the last several, and he made some adjustments, and he looked really sharp. We'll see if Eric Fetty can do that for you tomorrow.
And now we're starting to get Blues comments. So I think at this point, we need to kind of wrap it up, because now we're going on to the John Kelly rant, and that can go on for a really long time. So Peppermint Patty, I did see your comment about cheap beer night. What do you think the atmosphere was like? Well, there's no cheap beer at Busch. So let's just put it that way. I don't care if it's cheap beer or not. It's still not
$5 draft beers in Bud Terrace tonight. I know they did mention that.
Is that why they showed it on the broadcast?
Yeah. So there was some cheap beer tonight. Yeah.
military appreciation night too. So much appreciation and gratitude to those who serve. We appreciate you. So thanks for your service. But once again, the Cardinals fall short. Final score 6-5. Tomorrow, first pitch 1:15. Of course, we'll have Cardinals 365 and post-game action right here on Cards Central. Pre-game, post-game, whatever you want to call it. We're here all the time, 24/7 hot topics. Join, subscribe, like, comment. We appreciate you joining us here tonight. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be talking about a Cardinals victory and hopefully starting the split and maybe taking a series before the All-Star break. So we appreciate you joining us here tonight. That's the amazing Ethan Hannaford. I'm Sara Dayley, just along for the ride, getting you through some of these struggles and frustrations. We are Cardinals fans. Have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.